Transitional justice, in a very oversimplified terms, is a set of activities and programs that states or governments that, after mass violence or revolutions or civil wars, had to deal with a big legacy of violations, of big legacy of disappearance or crimes committed, whether an armed conflict, international armed conflict, or non-international armed conflict. But you cannot deal with the legacy of violence in a way that can help the nation move forward and pass those violations and the atrocities. In every conflict, you will get victims, you will get grievances, you get people ready for basically revenge, they're demanding justice, and you get the other side also demanding the same thing. And of course, there's competing narratives about what happened in every conflict. Everybody has their own narrative about what happened. So in simple terms, transitional justice will start based on documentation. That's an ideal scenario. And the Syrian conflict is one of the most documented conflicts in the modern history. That's one good thing to start with. And then you say, we want to say the truth about what happened. Because the government, Assad government, would say, those were terrorists and we have to kill them. And the opposition would say, well, you were imprisoning everybody and torturing everybody to death. And we have the pictures, the Caesar photos. And so we want to say the truth about this. So truth-telling mechanisms is a key and inherent part of any transitional justice process. And from there, you can go to criminal accountability because you want to hold criminals accountable for the violations they committed. And that's also a kind of war when you start. It's like, who we put on trial? Bashar al-Assad is us. So we get the deputies, so we get the leaders of the security agencies or their deputies or any officer in the intelligence. Now we have access to the guys, to the lower level guys who pull the trigger basically, but not to the senior people because the senior people left the country with Bashar or on their own. So that's complicated on its own. But also, a big feature, unfortunately, of the Syrian conflict was disappearance. A lot of Syrians disappeared, and the number is tens of thousands, if not 100,000 plus disappearance. And you cannot go through a normal, back to normal life without discovering the fate of those disappeared. And if you follow the news since December 8, a lot of mass graves showed up in Syria. And some unfortunately were digged on camera by locals, and it shouldn't be this way. So truth-telling mechanism, criminal accountability, missing persons programs where you identify and discover the fate of those disappeared, reparation and restitution programs for the survivors, and that's not necessarily a paid cash programs. It's just you get a lot of people with specialty now, like special needs, because of the conflict. So you need legislations that accommodate those people, and the reconstruction and the workforce. There's a lot of work for restitution and property restitution program, and this is equally important in Syria because a lot of destructions happened and a lot of displacement happened. Now, a very basic scenario: somebody coming back from the U.S. to go claim his home back in Syria. Oh, the home is destroyed. Oh, somebody took over the land. You talk to the new owner or the landlord, like, hey, I bought it in good faith from X, and X is out of the country. Good luck to you. And these all could trigger a new level of violation. That's why, if not dealt with in a proper way, could set the country for additional violence. And in my opinion, this is exactly what happened with Bashar showed up. He did not deal with the legacy of his father. He opened the prisons, let everybody out, including my dad, who was in prison at the time. But he did not deal with the people who disappeared in Tadmor. In Palmyra, 17,000 people disappeared at the time, and he did not deal with the violence of his security agencies, and that's why a successful transitional justice process usually is established non-reoccurrence. So that's how you set the country to never deal with torture and disappearance and executions and all these crimes by doing an accountability mechanism, a truth-telling, reconciliation program, and a national day to memorize the victims, and then everybody understand what happened here, the cost, and they're not going to slide back to violence. That's